Hey guys, welcome to a very special episode of COBLAB. We are joined by a very special guest, Miss Miriam Rotter.
And we'll be talking about the heart behind being a youth pastor, the rewards of taking a pie to the face, and what we actually do with our free time as pastors.
COBLAB, a hodgepodge of randomness.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Adam.
Good evening, Chester.
Yeah, this is different. We normally record in the afternoon.
Yep, or morning, that's true.
But it's late. It's like 10 o'clock at night kind of thing.
Way past my bedtime.
Way past my bedtime. Everybody knows I like a long slumber.
Well, that's because everyone knows you're old.
No! Yeah, I've been old for like forever, but I still love to sleep.
That's true.
But I'm going to be really happy. But this is awesome. We have a special event podcasting going on right now.
I've been excited about this for like weeks. I put it in my calendar and everything. I haven't put any of the other podcasts in my calendar.
Right. Well, we have like a special like project manager we use for all of our podcasts and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's been up there. We've been talking about this for a long time. Like, we're driving out to St. Helens. We're going to meet our special guests. We're going to have a podcast session with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a COBLAB road trip. That's kind of nice. I didn't even think of it that way until this second.
It is a COBLAB road trip. And because we're in a road trip, we're recording in a different location than what we normally do. We normally record at the church at Real Life. But we're visiting another church, and we're visiting someone 50 minutes away, essentially.
It was a long drive.
It was a long drive. And right now, if you're listening, we're recording in our good friend's home. So there's lots of little, like, noises that we don't normally have that's in our, like, little makeshift studio at the church. Mm-hmm. There's actually a cat running around.
Yeah. Pouncing and bouncing.
So it's very legitimate. It's very cozy. We're all kind of huddled together in her living room.
Yep, I'm drinking water out of a jar. Like, I'm loving it. We're having a good time.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're here with our amazing friend, Miriam Rotter. All right. Say hi to those people, Miss Miriam.
Hello, people.
Thank you for letting us come visit you in your lovely home and your amazing church. Adam and I, we had a blast tonight.
It was so much fun. Oh my gosh, you run a mean youth group.
It was pretty sick. You did... like a ball. I don't know what do you call that a game tonight?
It's like essentially it was a ball pit, like you would see in the McDonald's Playland or something like that. But instead of like small colorful balls, we used
balloons. Yeah, which was awesome. It sounded like a popcorn machine in your church.
It did.
It was just popping.
Or the 4th of July.
Yeah, I was thinking
that.
fireworks
Really?
while I was in there.
Yeah.
Baby, I'm fine. I can never sing songs, right?
I'm not going for it.
Don't
I do
even.
love some
Yeah.
KP.
KP.
It's my girl.
That's my queen. Anyway, yeah, your youth group is fantastic. You guys did pancake art tonight. Someone made your face, and then they ate it.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing to have happen to me.
Such an honor.
Yes, I felt very, very honored.
Yeah. What's the name of the church that you youth pastor at?
So the church that I youth pastor at is called Columbia River Foursquare, and our youth group is called The Rock.
Which there is a big rock in your youth group area.
Yes, there is.
It's like 14 tons.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy cool. We took pictures of.
We did take a picture.
Yeah, we'll have to post that later.
That'll look nice.
Yeah, I think that's pretty darn cool. We've known each other for a while now. We're not like the craziest of closest friends because we've got distance between us. But I've known you since we were younger, in like our early 20s. We've been doing camps and stuff here and there with one another. Our churches were like way better connected way back in the day. And now both you and I are youth pastors, and this gives us a chance to like reconnect. You're the first youth pastor that we've invited on our podcast, which there'll be many others. We're going up to Canada here in a couple weeks, and we'll be interviewing Casey and his youth group.
Yeah, and we're going to Newburgh as well.
Yeah, to see
a little
Andrew,
bit later. Andrew
Barella. I think that's how you say his last name.
Well, apparently we're really bad with last names, so...
Who is we?
Okay, I'm bad with last names. Whatever.
But yeah, it's really cool. I'm glad that you're here first, because we were talking about this stuff over the summer of us getting together and uniting and being not only like a family in our churches, but a family as individual churches coming together and building. So I'm glad that you're here. So thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're doing things a little different. Our youth, we interview and we talk about all kinds of different stuff. It's always a hodgepodge of randomness. But I thought tonight it'd be nice to kind of slow things down a little bit and hear your heart for youth ministry. It's fun because we get to facilitate all of these fun things as youth pastors. Oh my goodness, it's been a long day. Little sip time, little delicious. Yeah. Water out of a jar, the best.
It's the only way to drink it.
It's the only way to drink it. But I thought it'd be nice to slow things down a bit and really just talk about your heart for youth ministry. We get to facilitate these fun things, like COBLAB is a part of our youth group where we get to just hang out and be with people. But it also gets to be a tool where we get to hear the deeper things in life. And so, Miriam, we wanted to interview you and just talk about your youth pastor gig. You've been around for a little while now. You're 4 years into the technically average 5-year lifespan for a youth pastor. And there's a lot of young, new youth pastors out there, especially in our district. We met so many of them this summer.
Yeah.
Did you recognize a lot of faces?
Some of them, yeah. It's kind of funny to see like people that you've gone to camp with or that you knew from so long ago, and then they're like, oh, they're a youth pastor now. It's pretty awesome.
Right.
Well, I'm sure you never would have guessed when you met me when I was 14 that we would be sitting across from each other on couches having youth pastor podcast, right?
Yeah, I don't think I would have chosen that for you, Adam.
I wouldn't have chosen that for me. Honestly, no one saw this coming. Except for God. That's about it.
Yeah,
That's kind of how ministry works. Right? Before we were doing the interview, we were talking a little bit and hanging out. And your story is your own, but I think a lot of pastors have that same element to their story of, I did not choose to be a youth pastor. I know Adam didn't choose to be a youth pastor.
Kind of like the thug life, you know? You don't choose the thug life. Thug life chooses you. It's the same way. Youth pastors, thugs are like essentially the same thing.
Right. Straight out of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. No, and I didn't necessarily choose to be it wasn't my plan to be a youth pastor, but you were saying the same thing of not necessarily picking to be a youth pastor. We always have plans and visions for things that we wanted to do, but you ended up at the Rock pastoring these youth. How did that happen? How did you kind of fall into this? Or did you fall into this? Did someone throw you into this?
Dragged.
I went into it willingly. I went in as a interim youth pastor while our church was trying to figure things out. And
What does that mean, an interim?
Temporary, I guess. My senior pastors were doubling as youth pastors, and they were taking a sabbatical for 3 months. So they asked me to step in and lead while they were gone, and then when they came back, the idea was either they would hire somebody else or that they would go back to doing both senior pastor and youth pastor. So I said yes to just 3 months, and I said just 3 months is all I'll do, and it turned into 4 months because they weren't ready yet when they came back, and then they asked me if I would like to join staff permanently. So that is kind of how it all happened.
And when you made the decision to join the staff, did you say yes to your senior pastors, or did you say yes to your youth? Those are two different things.
Yeah, it was definitely to the youth. Those 3 months that I spent with them I fell in love with them. And I just really couldn't, I guess part of me was like looking for the person who could do my job better, because I thought that there was definitely somebody out there to do my job better. And I just don't think anybody could have loved them like I did. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Because I have youth that message me, and I reply back to them in almost every message, like, I love you, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Like, I'll see you soon, or see you Wednesday or something. And I don't know if you get the same thing, but we get youth who are like, oh yeah, it's, Chester and Adam, they love me. But, like, I wish I could really just, like, grab them and just tell them, like, I don't think you understand.
Yeah.
I genuinely love you. And it sounds like you feel that way about your youth.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah. Is there anything that you wouldn't do for them? I mean, for example, like your job, right? Like our job is weird, and I don't think a lot of people understand it. It's hard to explain to people what you do because you don't have. It's not a 9 to 5. You don't just clock in and out. You're always a youth pastor. You don't stop being a youth pastor. You were telling me before we got here, you were cleaning up your living room a little bit. You had game controllers on the floor because you had youth over here earlier invading your home, eating your food, using up your space, and you hate it? You love it?
I love it.
Yeah, right?
I love it. I mean, sometimes I did, for a while there, I had to hide some of my favorite food, like put it in the cabinet so that they wouldn't eat it because they just come in and eat everything.
Yeah, they don't care. They
I
see it and
definitely
they
have
eat it.
frozen burritos and popsicles in my freezer for my youth.
Stocked up and
They're
ready
totally
to go.
okay with that.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's the life, right? That you give up a lot. And I don't think a lot of people really understand probably how much you really do give up. It's a life of sacrifice. You've done this for 4 years. You've sacrificed so much for them. And that's, when you say you fell in love with them, like that's what love is, right? You're giving up everything for these guys. And tonight we saw that when you were speaking with your youth, the way that you were talking with them, the way that they run up and hug you and talk about you. And that's a good segue. We wanted to talk about your style. Can you describe kind of your style of your youth group that you've developed?
Yeah, we're like a big family. I mean, we love each other so much. We do life together. I go to soccer games and basketball games. I hate basketball, but I still go to those games. And everybody's just, we're really, I guess, informal. We're not super, everything isn't uniform. We're very random and crazy and just like to have fun and love each other and love Jesus.
Yeah. That's can't be easy to get there, to develop that. What we saw at camp with your youth is we always brag about Salmon Creek, about real life.
Yeah.
How we're all unified, we're always a family. But what's been fun is seeing you guys on a competitive level. Your church is just as united, just as family oriented as the way that we are. We put that first. That's our that's on top of our totem pole of it's family first. And you guys obviously walk the same path that we do. So it was fun at camp watching your youth being that united, but just going to your service tonight.
And just seeing it even more.
Yeah.
They're so connected. It's amazing.
You were telling us that it takes time. You've had 4 years to develop this, but what did you what do you do? What do you talk about? How do you engage them? What do you encourage with them? Are they looking for that kind of thing? How do you facilitate those needs like that?
We really one of the things that I really try to teach my students is just respect and caring about each other. I'm not really one for putting other people down, things like that. I mean, I can be really sarcastic, so I have to watch myself too. But I really I like when the students come to the Rock, it's a safe place. It's not a place where they have to worry about what people are going to say about them or how they're going to be treated. Everybody's included. Everybody is talked to, given an opportunity to join in the fun, and it's their choice if they want to, sit out or if they want to join. But it's really just, we talk a lot about love and just loving each other and just how that comes from the Lord. And we spend a lot of time outside of church too, which helps a lot in our small groups and just fun events.
Yeah, you were telling us you play an event called Find Andy.
Find Andy.
you hide a leader of yours named Andy in some random location, and then you guys literally go find him.
Yep.
But he's so good at hiding that
nobody can find him. So yeah, he ends up usually he'll come out of his hiding place and find us because we can't find him.
He's just bored.
Which is hilarious. One, it's a testament to Andy.
Yeah,
right?
he's awesome.
He's great at hiding. Yeah.
Hiding extraordinary.
Andy, coming to find you. But then two, technically your event is a failure, right? Because no one's found Andy.
Yes.
But because you've so cleverly masked this event and created it in such a fashion, it's highly successful. You've been playing this for like 4 years now.
Yeah.
People really look forward to not finding Andy.
And it was just so random too, because we were just talking one day about like what we could do for youth events and what we could do for free, because our students don't exactly have all the money, to do all these cool events and things like that. And so we just decided to hide a leader in a park, and they had to find him, and that's what we did. And then it kind of expanded from there and got bigger. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's so great.
some of the best stuff just comes out like that, right? A lot of people, like our youth that are listening, which we're finding out, like, there are other people that listen to our podcast that are not our youth. The number for our podcast, the amount of listens and hits on it, far exceed the number that are in our youth group, which is fun, because that means there are ears that are listening right now that aren't our youth. There are ears that are listening that are our youth. And this is your episode, so I imagine your youth are listening, and people that work with you, your friends, and not everybody understands like the background of being a youth pastor is weird.
Yes, it is.
And for you to I can only imagine. Like, I've sat at that table the way you've sat at that table. Like, cool. I've got no money in my pocket. Also, I love these youth, and I want to make sure they're gonna have a blast. What am I gonna do? And you're like, I'm gonna hide this man. It's gonna be genius.
There's a good chance we steal this. I'll hide. I'll do it. I'm a pretty good hider.
I'll just take Andy. I mean,
Could we call him and like, hey, we're doing this event. Could we hide you?
right? Oh my gosh, he's awesome. He's the opposite of what's that movie with Liam Neeson? Taken.
Yeah.
Come and find me.
I have a certain set of skills.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love that you're gonna. We sacrifice our. Do you have dignity anymore?
I watched you jump into a giant pit of balloons today.
It wasn't even like a normal jump either. It was like straight up like WWE John Cena from the top right.
It's for the kids.
It's always for the kids, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I've been at camp with you, and we've both taken pies and eggs and everything to every body part that's imaginable. I've been covered in goo. Mm-hmm. I've seen you destroyed in front of youth and covered in the grossest things. Mm-hmm. And where most people would freak out, like, oh my gosh, my clothing's destroyed. My hair is going to be a mess for the next week. I hate my life. How do you feel?
Eggs are great for your hair.
It's so true.
You did me a favor.
Right.
You're so nice after that.
Oh my gosh. The best thing after those things too, though, are the youth, right? They're so proud of you, and how does that feel afterwards when they're hanging out with you as you're covered in egg?
It's great because you wouldn't think it, but getting covered in egg is a segue for somebody telling you something that's going on in their life. They see you take a pie to the face or take some eggs to your head, and they're like, oh, I can trust that person. I can tell them what's going on in my life. I mean, the chapel times, or the times that we get together after chapel or whatever at camp, it's cool how, you just put yourself out there, and they really just take hold of that.
Yeah. Would you trade that for anything? Would you, if someone said you're going to get pied in your face right now for your youth, would you even hesitate?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't even faze me anymore.
Just a pie, that's it?
Yeah, right?
Seeing worse.
It's like that scene from Emperor's New Groove as they're tied to the log, falling down that waterfall. Bring it on.
Booyah!
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, yeah, I mean, just being in this job, you just do weird, silly things like that. Yeah, there's really no dignity. It's not a graceful job. You're not I'm never gonna show up on stage and just wear this tuxedo suit and I'm not Tony. I'll never get to be Tony Stark. I'm always gonna be a clown to some degree. But I think you hit the nail on the head, right? How many times have you done something just utterly stupid or put yourself in harm's way, and it gets a laugh, but then moments later or a week later or months later, after you've like taken down that barrier in that youth's life, that they do open up to you. They get to speak to you. I think what people don't know though is it's life changing for the youth because you get to speak love and truth and happiness into their life. You get to engage them and talk about Christ, which is life changing for them. But you've done this for a while now. Like, is your life different because of this?
Oh, definitely. Anytime, you do a teaching, it's so funny because you always like learn stuff yourself. It's like, oh yeah, that's you should probably listen to your own advice there. And it definitely, like, even just using your personal testimony, sharing that with other people, opening up to students, you learn a lot about yourself and just how much you've grown and how much you're still growing because of that.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. It's an interesting job. It has its joys like that, right? But it also has its downfalls. Our main job is relational. That's what you do, right? You build relationships with your youth, but you also build relationships with your youth leaders and their parents. Like you were talking about before our podcast about it's got its ups and its downs is how you worded it.
Tell us about some of those downs.
Well, definitely, like I was telling you earlier, one of the things that I had to learn, and it was kind of a hard lesson to learn, it took me a while to get over it, but it's just that the parents of my students aren't really my enemy, Everything that a parent does, I think a lot is out of love for their child, and whether or not they agree with what you're doing can be difficult, and just learning that my job is not only to disciple the students, but it's also to cultivate a good family life, and really like connecting with my parents, praying for my parents, loving my parents is the most important thing that I could do as a youth pastor, because those kids are spending so much more time with them than they do with me once a week. And so yeah, just learning that I don't need to be afraid of them. Sometimes people aren't going to like what you do. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions, but ultimately it's so important to have that relationship with the parents as well.
Yeah. That lesson isn't learned easily.
No.
But it's a true treasure that I think a lot of youth pastors, especially in our area, there's a lot of new youth pastors that we were at camp. They just got the job like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And that's like for some of it, including myself, some of it was their first outing with their youth, like getting to really get to know them. Now, lucky for me, I have like a relationship with my church. I've been around them forever, so I'm a real familiar face to them, and they're just like, oh, of course, Chester's in charge or whatever. But for other youth pastors that are just starting out, that's
foundational. That's everything. Make or break right at the beginning, right there.
Right. Make friends with those parents. We'll take a pie to the face for the kids, but it's amazing that when you start working with adults, you're like,
Yeah, they're kind of scary.
They are scary,
Yeah.
but then you learn to do kind of the same thing. Like, yeah, I'm going to go out of my way to make sure that you're comforted or that you're in the know or that I can inform you better.
Right.
And
Communication is very important with the parents.
Right.
Very important.
Right. But then they go from being these people that test you or question you to being your biggest advocates for things. Mm-hmm. And we've had moments on our experience where we wanted to do something and the staff or other people or other leaders aren't necessarily the ones that are supporting it, but then we have our parents that we've like built trust with them. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, trust Chester, trust Adam. Like it doesn't sound like it's gonna work, but they're not gonna do something that's gonna put our kids in harm's way.
Right.
Have you've experienced something like that? I'm assuming then. Right?
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's really cool too to just, one of the questions to ask parents is, how can I help you help your student? Parents have more information than we do on what's going on in their students' lives and how I can better serve them as a youth pastor. I'm not there to fix their kids, but I'm there to love on them and disciple them in a way that they can't reach them.
Right.
So.
Well, what I love is so we've talked on the podcast before, Adam and I went to Canada. We went to school up there to go get our degrees and to work in these fields with this knowledge, this background. But your background's not like that. You didn't go to Bible college to become like a pastor. Like we said earlier, you didn't have plans to be a pastor. But what's amazing is in our area, in this like Portland, Vancouver metro area, you're one of the like longest running pastors, youth pastors in this area, and you're defying expectations. You're in the game longer than what most people are. You're in your 4th year, and most people by now are like out of the game that went to school to be a youth pastor. And you didn't. You're far more relational. You're a missions trip, more of a person. And what I think is where some people capitalize on this kind of theological basis of hardcore preaching and these long, grandiose sermons. You didn't take that approach. You were talking about earlier how your youth group is a family, and so you pushed relationships first. Which when we read the Bible, when we look at Christ, like that's the first thing he does with anything, right? Like, feed my people, hang out with them. He finds their needs and meets their physical needs, and then attacks them spiritually, which completely changes people's lives and Christ's relationship with them. But you're a relational person. Your style is completely different than what a lot of people do. Can you describe from the pulpit how you're different? You were telling me earlier how you're not a preachy kind of person, and I think the word you kind of use is informal. So what does that look like? If I saw you, now we saw you, but some of our friends that are listening to some of our youth, like if they saw you preaching, what does that look like? What is a Miriam style preaching?
My style of teaching is much like what you would just see if you were talking to me. It's very I use a lot of life experiences, and just use a lot of my own trials and things like that. But I connect to my students in a way that I know that they learn, and that comes from being around them for a while. But just not speaking at them, but communicating with them and asking them for input. Like I ask a lot of time for feedback, or, answer a question, or ask me this, or something like that, they're involved, they're engaged. That's how they pay attention. I mean, some of them still talk and whatever, but they're not just sitting there listening to me speak at them. I definitely I talk with them, I guess is a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're far more conversational.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And they have room to talk, which is rare to see, right? Most people are always talking at somebody, but you're talking with your students, and they respond
really well.
Yeah. Not only in your sermon time, but afterwards. So like they're waiting to respond, to hang out with you, which is amazing. And so we see, like with you, I think it's a testament to who you are, that you put your relational aspects first, and that plays out in their lives so well. And I think, I don't know if you did it by chance or by trial or error, or you just planned for it to happen, but you were telling me earlier how you have a very unique youth group, where we're a part of Real Life in Vancouver, in northern Vancouver. We have there's a very broad group of people, but we live in a very rich part of town. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of cute families, and a lot of our kids have a mom and a dad and 2.5 siblings and a white picket fence, very all American kind of thing. But you don't have that typical thing in your youth group. You were saying that you can you describe kind of your demographic that
we are probably about 75% of my students are adopted or in foster care. So that kind of shows you a little bit of the crowd that I'm working with.
Right. Which isn't a negative thing.
No, I absolutely love it. But it's so important to somebody who's been moved around from home to home. Even somebody who's been taken out of their original home, adopted from birth, or even then, it's really hard to find your identity and to figure out who you belong with. And so that's one of my biggest goals, is to make sure that we are a family for those kids, because not all of them have ever experienced that.
Right.
So.
And your style definitely relates to... It almost feels like I'm sitting at someone's dinner table and you're just having a conversation over dinner. Tonight, you guys were all just sitting in couches and chairs around like a fire. It was like hanging out in someone's living room.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like church. And there's so many times I go to other people's churches, like, I can tell this is a church, which isn't a bad thing. It's just definitively, this is what I would expect to see at a church. I did not expect to come to your church tonight and get invited to sit in someone's home, which is really what it felt like. And those youth, like you said, their home life can be jumbled or different, or they're looking for family, and you gave it to them easily. Your style is conversational, your heart is on your sleeve, your youth sense that. It's
really homey.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And I was super impressed.
Yeah. I mean, even just like walking in, like naturally with my mind, I was just like, where are there no chairs set up? Where are they gonna sit? And they just sat on couches or gathered like just around your feet. And I was like, oh my
They
gosh.
plopped down on the ground. And the leaders did too.
It
Your
was
leaders
amazing.
just crisscross applesauced it up.
I also want to add that, yeah, your leaders are phenomenal and
Yes,
they
they are.
respond so well to you. And like, I was just amazed just sitting back and just watching them. And I was like, man, I like that. Not only is she a leader to the youth, but she's a leader of leaders. And I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm glad you've been in the game a while, because I've definitely taken notes tonight of what you were doing at your youth group, which is fantastic. I think it shows that you've had time in the game and that you have a certain expertise, which is fantastic. So you're a youth pastor and you do all that ministry, but we don't always do ministry. We don't live at the church, although a lot of people think that we do.
90% of it.
Let's talk about you, and I'm really interested about you, because I think we're growing to be better friends, and I really like that. I like that I get to know you a little bit more. I found out tonight that we share. So our church is really into running. We run all the time, but I found out that you're an interesting case. You run, but
I hate it.
You run more than most people too, which is amazing, and you hate it.
I hate every moment of it.
how many half marathons have you done?
I've done 4 half marathons.
How many of these relay races have you done?
3.
That are all like 100 plus miles, 150 plus miles.
Yes, on a team. So I don't, yeah.
Right. But you run like 15 miles of that, like 150 plus of it.
Doesn't it sound awful?
That's a year's worth of running for me.
You hate it?
I do.
Oh my goodness.
Like there's no love that I have for it at all. Like some people, they hate it but they love it. I just hate it. Like I really hate it.
Now, you guys can't see this at home. Miriam has a beautiful smile, and she's often smiling, especially if she's having fun. Her face for running is filled with such disdain. It would probably scare small animals.
Yes.
It's amazing to me that you still do it, though.
Why do you do it? What is the factor behind it?
There's a couple reasons. One of them is I like to eat a lot, so you
Oh,
know.
girl. Let me tell you about running and eating.
It gives me the excuse, I guess you could say, to eat what I want. And I also I am on a relay team. They're called Baywatch, BAE.
Oh.
Watch.
Oh, hey, babe.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I like it.
And we run relays every summer together, and I just love it because they're not normally people that I would hang out with. They're like a hodgepodge of people from around this area that joined a team together, and it's so much fun. Not the running part, but
Hanging
other
out,
part.
the relational part.
Yeah, driving in the car, listening to tunes, and sleeping on the ground in a sleeping bag, and all that kind of stuff. It's great.
That's not a reflection of ministry whatsoever.
Nope.
Yeah. You think I love setting up 300 chairs? Nope.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's my new hobby.
You want to see my setting up chairs face? It looks a lot like Miriam's running face. But the relational part is unreal. It's unlike anything else,
Yeah,
right?
it's great.
Yeah. You also, you are seasoned, and I don't think people understand this. You work 40, 50 hours outside of the church.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. What do you do?
I support a severely autistic person, and I love it. It's a fantastic job. It's very rewarding. I learned a lot, too, about the world of autism, and I definitely can relate more with people who have children with autism, and it's pretty amazing. I really love it.
It's pretty life-changing.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, not just the time you put in, but the things you do also take effort out of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a job, which is great, but it's also just I help somebody do all aspects of their life, and it's hard to do your own life sometimes. So yeah, but I love it. It's great.
So you do 40, 50 hours there, and then you go and, youth ministry, it's not a full-time job. It's as you breathe.
Every time.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah. So then you do that on top of it, and we don't clock in, so you've got your Sunday night service, but again, you had youth over here early before service, and then after service we went and got burritos, and you're, again, with your youth. Anyway, yeah, so it's always going. Yeah, you are seasoned. How do you keep up with that? Like, is there, you make time for you, right? So, like, what do you do in your downtime? Like, if there are no youth around, what am I going to find you doing?
Running and hating it, probably. But, I love going out and doing things. I mean, I have a busy life for a reason. I enjoy being busy. So I love to go out and eat good food. I love to watch Netflix.
Are you watching Stranger Things?
I already watched it.
Was it done?
Yeah, it was
on
awesome.
top of it.
Yeah.
Oh, well done. You are busy all the time. I mean, I don't know about you, Adam, right? But I like my family, and I imagine your family's probably the same thing. I'm always running around, and like I try to make time for them as much as I can. But I'm always like, I've got a text message or a phone call, or I'm like sending an email, or I'm like, hey, I'm here for like an hour, and then I gotta go. And then I'll be back in like 3 hours. I'm like, what? Like, you don't live a normal lifestyle.
No.
No. But you're commended for that. Like, we recognize like the amount of effort you put into it. In your youth, to some degree, I'm sure figure out sooner or later like how much time you really give up to other people. Cool. What are some of the things that you're into right now? Like Netflix-y wise, popular, all that jazz. What are you looking at? Like, what are you watching? You're a big movie file. You're a big cinephile,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was it? You and I were geeking out over Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Never-ending Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Looking at some of your books here on your shelf. Kind of interesting. Yeah. What's up with that? What do you got going on over there?
Oh, just some Lord of the Rings, Jane Austen. Hunger Games. Those are actually all my roommate's books.
Right. You share a room. Actually, your home is beautiful, and your cat is all tuckered out over there.
He went to sleep.
But it's filled. You can tell, like, it's filled with just you are a pop culture like connoisseur.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, I
am. You can't see it, but I have my poster of Justin Bieber up on the wall, and.
Oh, are you a Biebs fan?
Oh yeah.
Is this a new Biebs or old Biebs?
Oh, all of it.
I was there tonight. You were playing it on your list. I never thought that I could walk through fire. Yeah.
It's good. They're separate people, really.
Those two different. No, they really are. Yeah. New Biebs is completely different than old Biebs.
Yeah, definitely.
That song's actually on my running playlist. Like, I get super hyped when that song comes on.
I listen to angry, metal music because it just helps my mood.
Do you? Oh my gosh. Mother Monster, Lady Gaga, is in my ears all the time. And I would have never listened to her before, but for some reason she hypes my runs. I can go 10 miles. That was easy peasy.
Just need a little bit of Gaga.
A little bit of Gaga. She's crazy, but I love those beats.
She's good.
Yeah. Anywho. Well, we've got a little bit longer today. I really wanted to talk with you. Normally our podcasts are only half an hour long, but I thought, man, it would be really good to hear Miriam and what she's up to.
And you drove all the way out here, so...
We drove all the way out.
Taking the extra time.
Which is kind of fun. We keep talking about things that are happening up in the future. I was talking to you the other day over Facebook. We've got a plan to do some kind of crazy video things together, which probably won't happen for a little bit, but we'll keep talking about that. And then we're you and I both have a heart for not only our churches, but for our district, and the Pacific Northwest, really, in general. And so we're trying to get together and plan some big kind of conference-y, leadership-style things. In the past, we used to go to one called, what's it called?
Red Conference.
Red Conference. I know you hate that name.
I don't hate it.
Ryan Brown, we love you.
We do.
You're wonderful.
It's great. I just think there's something different that it should be called.
Yeah, I mean, it's our time.
Yeah.
What's that Goonie quote? This is our time. Down here.
I thought you were talking about, hey, you guys.
No.
Never mind.
Maybe that'll be our shout out to people when we're doing our
Come to the conference.
Yeah.
This is your time. Hey, you guys.
But I want them to know, like, not only do you care about, you have your own life to live, but you have a roommate that you share your life with and a home with, and you have youth that you share your life with. You have a job 40, 50 hours outside of the church, and then you try to make time for you, the little sliver that you have. But then on top of that, your heart is still pumping, still strong enough to think of, man, can I do things in my greater community? Can I be a part of multiple churches? And that's really like, that's the heart of why you and I are hanging out together right now doing this podcast, is we both share that common love for our people outside of our churches, our home, this Pacific Northwest. And I want people to be excited for, like, oh, I wonder what Miriam's up to. Because really, like, we talk on, like, all of us, we're always on Facebook or something and just talking and scheming about, like, cool, let's do these things. And so by the time this airs, which will probably be like 3 weeks from now or whatever, I don't know. But we've already had this down. We've probably already talked to Ryan Brown. We're already having, like, we've come up with a new name that's not Red Conference.
Blue Conference.
Yeah, Blue Conference. Everything's blue.
I'm down.
Make it green. Right? No, but yeah, I love that this is like the beginnings of these like really cool relationships for all of us. And like a year from now, I can listen to this podcast again and go, hey, remember when we were just sitting on your couch just talking about nothing? It's going to be fantastic. Anywho, Miriam, thank you so much for letting us be in your lovely home. Thank you for inviting us out to your family, not your youth group, but your family. And you should be proud of the family that you have.
I am. I'm very proud of them. I love them.
I hope that they know how much you really do for them, and that through this they get to hear a little bit more of how much you really give up for them in love. Anyway, we don't really have like a really big send-off, but I think we'll just keep it real subtle tonight. It's kind of nice.
I kind of still want to do the people sandwich.
We gotta do the people sandwich. Yeah. So we always ask everyone on our podcast, what is your favorite type of sandwich?
Probably, now this is horrible, but I really like the cold cut combo from Subway. It's like bologna, like seriously, so good.
It's funny because I like despise bologna, but there's something I actually enjoy about that cold cut combo. Every once in a while,
Yeah,
I'll go for it.
it's pretty good.
Nice. That's the first time we've heard that one.
That's the first cold
What I do
cut.
love is that everyone keeps going to Subway.
I know.
I'm sorry, Jimmy John's. I guess no one goes to you. So
Quiznos,
yeah.
you just can't compete.
No. Anywho, it's been a lovely evening. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of COBLAB. Thank you for our guest, Miss Miriam. You are
You're
lovely
wonderful.
and a dish. Thank you. We will catch you guys next week on the next episode of COBLAB. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.